So we got caught off at the last video. I put the last couple problems on, so pause if you need them. And then I want to look at problem 8, and then we're going to get our third sheet of paper out and do our last couple problems here, okay? So on problem 8, to turn a percent into a fraction, you put it over 100. Well, I'm going to have, let's do this in black. I'm going to have a decimal. So I have 28 and 5/10 over 100. To get rid of that decimal, I need to have that decimal point shift one place value to the right, which means I need to multiply top and bottom by 1 power of 10. So now this turns into 285 thousandths. Now I'm going to reduce. So I would take my 285 divided by 1,000 and I'd look for common factors. So something I see right off the bat is 5. I also see that that's not a very big value. So if I'm doing this by hand, I'm going to be dividing a lot. And I didn't leave myself a lot of room. So I'm actually going to go straight to the calculator. So I have 285 divided by 1,000. So 285 divided by 1,000. And it turns it into 57 over 200. So as my simplified fraction, I have 57 over 200. Okay, more than likely, I'm having y'all turn this paper in to me tomorrow. So if you don't finish these 12 problems up before class ends, they are homework, because I'm more than likely going to collect it on Tuesday and give you guys credit for doing your classwork during class, okay? So now, third sheet of paper. We're going to look at 6 problems where we have different values given to us and different methods we can do to solve them, okay? So we have our conversion. You can always use your conversion. Problem 1. I want us to find the percent that Carolina won. You do not have to put that little chart that's on the right on your paper, okay? You can if you want to, you don't have to. So first problem we're finding is percent Carolina won. Because we got a little chart over there, and it says Carolina played 19 out of 25 games, or won 19 out of 25 games, and Anaya won 17 out of 20. So we're going to find percent Carolina won. So we can use our conversion method when we go around our triangle. Okay, so if percent is on top, we got fraction, and then we have our decimal, and we go around clockwise. So they give me a fraction, and I want to turn it into a percent, so I'm going to go fraction to decimal, decimal to percent. So I have 19 out of 25. To turn it into a decimal, I would divide. I can do it by hand, where the 19 would go inside and the 25 would go outside. You also can throw it straight in your calculator. So we have 19 divided by 25, and I get 0.76. Okay, so now for my conversion to turn a decimal into percent, I multiply by 100. So I'm going to do times 100, which shifts that decimal point 2 place values to the right. And then I put my percent symbol on there. So this would be 76%. Okay, so first method you could do when we're given the part and the whole of a fraction and you have to find percent is our conversion method. We just go around our triangle. Second method we can do is our proportion method, okay? Our proportion method is where we're going to use our knowledge of ratios and equivalent ratios to solve. So we have 2 ratios set equal to each other. So it's going to be part over whole is equal to percent over 100. And with this method, when we have equivalent ratios, the values that are diagonal from each other have to have the same product. So we're going to fill this in. The 100 is always given. Whatever 2 numbers are diagonal from each other, we multiply, and then we would divide by the third value. Okay, so I'm going to give us a little fake number here so we can see how it works with simpler numbers. So if I have the fraction 1/2 and I want to turn it into a percent, okay, my percent is my unknown. It always goes over the value of 100. So they have to have the same product. So 1 times 100 is 100. And I know that it is equal to my other diagonal, which is 2 times my unknown number. So 2 times something. Okay, if I don't know what to multiply 2 by to get 100, I would work backwards. So this is where I'm going to take that purple value, those 2 that I multiplied, and I'm going to divide by the value of 2. So I would divide by 2, and I find that 50, which is percent, so I'd put my little percent symbol, is my unknown number. Okay, so we multiplied the 2 values that were diagonal from each other, and then we divided by the third number, because we ended up doing 1 times 100 and then divided by 2, okay? So in this problem, we're going to find percent Anaya 1. Okay, so when we fill it in, Anaya 1, 17 out of 20, so 17 is our part, 20 is our whole. We are supposed to find the percent, so that is our unknown over 100. So what 2 numbers do I have diagonal from each other? 17 and 100. And then my third number is 20. So I'm going to do 17 times 100 and then divide by 20. I am allowed to throw this in my calculator. I like to hit my fraction button first so that it looks like a nice pretty fraction. You can hit it afterwards because it'll give you the same thing. So if you did your 17 times 100 and then you divide it by your 20 afterwards, it will still give you the same answer. So it's okay if it looks slightly different. And this gives us 85 and it's percent, so I have to put my percent symbol. Okay, so problem 1, we did our conversion method. Problem 2, we did our proportion method. Why do I like the proportion method? Because it can solve when part is missing, it can solve when whole is missing, it can solve when percent is missing. Choice is yours though, okay? So new problem here. We're gonna look at this little survey here, and we're gonna just do the proportion method. Okay, so for problem 3, it says, in a survey, 13 out of 20 teachers responded yes to a proposal for a new after-school club. In the survey, 37 out of 50 students responded yes. So I want us to find, for problem 3, percent of teachers. And for problem 4, I want you to find percent of students. I would love you to pause and try this completely on your own, and then come back because I am going to set it up and solve both of them. But try using that proportion method. Okay, so for problem 3, percent of teachers. Oh, and you do not have to write down that little word text of the survey, okay? You can just use the numbers in your problem. So percent of teachers, it says 13 out of 20 teachers, so my part is 13. My whole is 20, percent is my unknown, and it always goes over 100. So the 2 numbers that are diagonal from each other, we multiply. So I'm going to do 13 times 100, and then we would divide by our third value. So we divide by 20. So 13 times 100 divided by 20. And that means 65% of teachers are in favor of this after school club. Okay, so for problem 4, we're finding percent of students. It says 37 out of 50. So 37 is my part, 50 is my whole. I have my unknown all over 100. So I multiply the 2 numbers that are diagonal from each other. So I'm going to do 37 times 100. And then I divide by my third number. So I'm dividing by 50. Whenever we're doing this, it is not always that we multiply by 100. We will see that down the road tomorrow when we look at when parts and whole are missing, that will have different values. So I got 74, and this is percent, so this would be 74% of students are in favor of the after-school club. Okay, one other method that we did is we used benchmark percents. Benchmark percents is only friendly if there's something that's easily divisible by numbers, okay? So we're going to do problem 5 and 6 using benchmark percents. When we're done with these, you guys will have time to go on and start working on iReady. 45 minutes in one past lesson. That's the only other assignment that we have so far for the week for us to work on. Okay, so, and I also want to remind y'all that this unit, whatever method you like is the one that you can use. You don't have to use any specific method. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to say that Kyle won 14 out of 20 games. And we're going to look at finding his percent. So when I set it up, I like to use a table. I'm going to put my whole at the bottom. So 100% is my whole. I'm going to put percent only on the right. And that is 20 games. I want to find 14 games. So it's finding what can give me that value of 14 here. So I'm going to start by finding 10%. I can find 10% by taking 100 and dividing it by 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So 20 divided by 10 is 2. So I know that 2 games is 10%. So now I don't need any more benchmark percents because I can turn a 2 into a 14. 2 times 7 is 14. So I know that if I do that, remember with ratios, as long as you're doing the same thing to both sides, multiplying or dividing, you're going to have an equivalent value. So 2 times 7 is 14. So I'm going to take 10% times 7. 10% times 7 is 70%. So Kyle won 70% of his games. Some of our friendly benchmark percents to use is 50%, 25%, 10%, 5%. Sometimes even going all the way to 1%, okay? Problem 6, we're going to use Allie. Allie won 32 out of 40 games. I like to put it on a table. I like to put my whole always at the bottom, percents always on the right, and the actual quantity on the left. So 100% is her total number of games. I don't know if y'all remember this, but whatever follows that word of is almost always our whole. So 40 games is our whole. We need to find the value of 32. And we're going to try different benchmarks. So I'm going to start with 50%. So 100 divided by 2 is 50. So 40 divided by 2 is 20. Not the most helpful, so I'm going to try finding 10%. I'm going to go from 100 again. So 100 divided by 10 is 10. 40 divided by 10 is 4. So I know 4 games is 10%. I can turn a 4 into a 32. 4 times 8 is 32. So I can do the same thing to my 10%. 10% times 8 is 80%. So Allie won 80% of her games. Okay, so 3 different methods. Every single time we had a fraction that we had to find the percent today. Tomorrow we'll look at when the part is missing, and we'll look at when the whole is missing. And we'll do the second two methods, the proportion method, and we'll do benchmark percent. And again, it's the one that you prefer. So expectation for the remainder of class is that you're working on your iReady, 45 minutes and one past lesson. What if you are a student who hasn't finished your diagnostic yet and you didn't get pulled by Miss Frazier yet? Please go on and work on reflex and try and get your reflex green light for the remainder of class. I hope y'all have a great first day back from break.